Are you struggling to lose weight after 40? What if I told you that weight loss in your 40s and beyond isn't any different than losing weight in your 20s or 30s? I'll show you what if. Well, I didn't expect that. But what if I said that once I figured out 5 reasons I wasn't losing after 40, that it's way easier to lose weight now than it ever was when I was younger? You're just giving me extra calories to build muscle, so joke's on you. In this video, I'll show you 5 reasons you're not losing weight after 40. Plus, the simple steps you can take to make consistent fat loss easy at any age. But first, you have to understand the #1 reason most people fail diet after diet, often ending up even heavier than where you started. But I'm only gonna let you in on that secret if you promise to quit throwing clown pies in my face. Who still throws clown pies anyway? Isn't that like 1980s humor? Even though many dieters believe you failed your diet because you ate too many carbs, or maybe you didn't fast long enough, or it's because you couldn't stick to your planned 30 minutes of torture every day, the truth is, trying to follow these strict rules can actually make fat loss harder. Because who wants to walk around smelling like a teenage boy jumping on a trampoline after hitting that bike day in and day out? Not only is smelling like dirty feet the worst, but since your metabolism eventually adapts to all of that hard work, you'll have to pedal longer and faster if you want your results to keep coming. So if strict diet rules only make sustainable fat loss even harder, what gives? The #1 reason at least 90% of people fail diet after diet is because most people go into a new diet with unreasonable expectations. Once you experience that initial water weight loss on any strict diet, most dieters expect those big losses week after week. And when that doesn't happen, they throw their plan out and start over with a new diet that's even more strict because now they're desperate to lose weight. The easiest way to reframe your thought process for a plan that gets long-term results is like this. Let's say you want to lose 50 pounds. What if instead of expecting to drop all 50 pounds with some rapid weight loss plan, what if instead you change your habits over time, which results in a more reasonable loss of 1 pound per week? Sure, it might take the entire year to lose all 50 pounds, but how much easier will it be to maintain your results when you don't crash your metabolism with plans that promote quick weight loss? And how much easier will it be to stay at your goal forever instead of quickly regain everything back when you take an entire year to develop the habits that helped you get there? Because if you don't stick to the habits that helped you lose weight, there is 0 chance that you'll actually keep it off. As someone who took way more than a year to lose 50 pounds, I can tell you this is the easiest time I've had maintaining my weight, and I just turned 45, which means age was never my issue. But how did I do it? In order to lose those 50 pounds, I had to turn to something every dieter dreads. And I knew I had to practice this habit multiple times a day if I wanted results. Because after decades worth of diets that took me nowhere fast, I finally understood that skipping this habit was like expecting to retire as a millionaire, but never taking time to budget or invest. I think most of us understand that if you want to cushion your nest egg, not only do you have to establish a budget, but you have to actually follow that budget in order to see your savings grow, which takes sacrifice. But watching interest compound over time is completely worth skipping the drive-thru so that you have more money to invest. That's exactly what you need to do with your diet if you want to see your results grow. First, you have to figure out your daily calorie budget, and then you have to stick to it. But most women over 40 will never reach their goals because they don't want to track. Most women are all, logging what I eat takes too much time. Or, I don't understand macros, it is so confusing. Or even, do I really have to track? Can I just do keto instead? Since sustainable weight loss comes down to a moderate calorie deficit, you'll never know if you're in a deficit if you don't track. Because even though you magically dropped 5 pounds the first week last time you tried keto, what you didn't understand is none of that was fat. The only magic you stumbled on was peeing more often whenever you cut out carbohydrates, which do as they say, as in carbohydrate. And maybe that quick drop is enough to keep you motivated for at least the first few weeks. But if all of these quick fix diets are as magical as everyone claims, then why aren't you at your goal weight? And how come every time you get close, you have to fight to stay there? If the latest trendy diet is something that helps you stay in a calorie deficit, that is great. Then you eat fat bombs until your little heart is content. But only if you track those fat bombs to make sure that you're still in a calorie deficit, because that's really where the magic lies. Well, part of the magic. Because if you don't get this next one right, then I can promise you that you won't remain in a calorie deficit, even if you track every morsel you shove into your mouth. To illustrate this, let's go back to our example of budgeting in order to fund your life of leisure in your golden years. When you don't track this next habit, that's like investing in a stock that just keeps dropping. If you keep blindly throwing money into that stock, you will never make it to bingo night, since you'll have to spend your time asking shoppers if they want paper or plastic. Sure, you may be socking away thousands of dollars each month, but how does that help if the stock keeps losing value? That's why you gotta pay attention to your investment. And the same thing holds true for paying attention to your daily movement. Because now that I've talked you into sticking to a moderate calorie deficit, you have to understand that your metabolism is as finicky as that stock that's not holding steady. Because every time you drop your calories, your metabolism drops with it. But your body isn't doing this just to be a jerk, especially since this is Mother Nature's way of keeping you alive. Back in the day, there wasn't the same steady food supply that we enjoy today, which meant your metabolism had to adjust during famines so you didn't suffer a cold, hungry death. While it's true that running out of food isn't really a thing these days, our bodies haven't adjusted as rapidly as the flavors of Oreos have multiplied on store shelves. That's where tracking daily steps comes in. Instead of just dealing with your metabolism slowing down whenever you cut calories, you can counteract this drop by moving more, which is an important habit to track since being too sedentary is one of the biggest reasons women can't lose weight after 40. For anyone who popped a smug smile because you upped your cardio after starting your diet, this even applies to you. I'm only calling you out because I used to be that smug cardioholic who never reached her goal despite busting out hours of cardio each week. As I found out the hard way, you can still be considered sedentary even when you're busting your butt on cardio machines for 30 minutes or more every day. Plus, overdoing cardio goes right back to throwing large amounts of money into that sinking stock, since overdoing cardio actually slows your metabolism over time, which means investing too often in strenuous cardio isn't the best use of your time. Whereas investing in the next habit is the same effect as that investment account with compounding interest. Even though progress is slow at the beginning, eventually your efforts snowball into some pretty big gains, only if you're patient. In previous diets where I didn't have patience, I was limited to 12 or 1300 calories a day, and I ate that little while busting my butt on cardio. The bigger problem was sticking to 12 or 1300 calories was never sustainable for long before I'd find myself regaining everything I lost, even while sticking to a low-calorie plan. Once I shifted from metabolism slowing activities and I instead focused on activities that boosted my metabolism, I was able to lose weight while eating 2,000 calories a day. This is what happens when you prioritize building muscle during a fat loss diet. While plenty of patience is required, this approach works best since building muscle, or at a minimum maintaining what you've got, means you can eat more while losing weight. Unfortunately, most women over 40 don't want to give up fad diets for good by adding a strength training routine because it's too hard, or it's too confusing, or maybe you fear that you'll get bulky. Plus, the scale doesn't drop as quickly if it moves at all. But remember the number one reason most women fail diet after diet? If you don't have the patience required to lose fat the right way, then you will stay stuck in yo-yo diets forever. As someone who didn't take strength training seriously until I hit 42, I can assure you that even though strength training technically isn't required to lose weight, it is absolutely necessary if you want to quit struggling to keep the weight off. But not even lifting weights a few days each week will help you build muscle if you don't have the next piece dialed in. Continuing to ignore this is the same thing as investing all of your money into Kmart, even after all of the cool moms clearly moved on to Target. Even though you and that blue light had some good times, Kmart was never able to modernize. The same thing happens when you continue to follow strict diets that were popularized in the 70s that have been reincarnated several times over the next few decades. As someone who started every one of these diets countless times, I can assure you that diet extremes have no place in a sustainable fat loss plan, which is the reason I quit all fad diets for good, choosing to instead focus on keeping protein high while eating foods I enjoy in a moderate calorie deficit. Even though I followed what's considered a high protein diet, once you look at my macro breakdown, it's actually pretty balanced, coming in around 35% of my calories from protein. Then I let the other macros fall into place based on what I prefer and what keeps me full. But I always keep an eye on protein since it's necessary to build a stronger metabolism. If you don't also keep an eye on protein, aiming for your goal weight in grams of protein each day, then that's a big reason you're not losing weight over 40. Because without enough protein, you'll never build metabolism boosting muscle. Plus, your body requires the amino acids found in protein for several necessary functions, which means your brain will keep sending hunger signals until your body gets what it needs, causing you to overeat. Once you shift your focus away from obsessing over carbs or fat and you instead focus on adding more protein, that makes fat loss so much easier. But everything we've talked about so far can easily fall apart if you don't also prioritize this final habit. Not prioritizing this can be as stressful as watching every last dollar you've invested crash and burn in the latest financial crisis. When I regained 50 pounds a few years back, I never connected the weight gain to anything beyond, I guess I must be eating too many carbs, or maybe I need to fast longer. It took years for me to figure out what the culprit really was. Even though we all know sleep is necessary to function, I never put any thought into the quality of my sleep since how bad could it really be? I was always in bed by 9 or 10, but it didn't really matter how early my head hit that pillow since I'd wake up most nights around 2 or 3, with it taking me hours to fall back asleep. Looking back, even though I was in bed by 9, I'd find myself scrolling Instagram or staying up just a little bit later to watch the housewives scream at each other. I didn't understand that the habits like this canceled out all of the hard work I was putting into losing weight.
That's my opinion!
Well, actually, it's not just my opinion, especially since there are plenty of studies that show poor sleep increases hunger hormones, slows metabolism, and affects behavior in ways that lead to increased caloric intake and weight gain. Which means if you want your weight loss efforts to work, then you've got to put more effort into higher quality sleep. It wasn't until I put the work into fixing my sleep that I was able to drop the 50 pounds I regained. The habits I changed to finally sleep through the night include stopping all caffeine at least 10 hours before bed, getting early morning sunlight into my eyes first thing, quitting all stressful diets, including long bouts of intermittent fasting, and over-restricting calories and carbs, and I take magnesium threonate 30 minutes before bed. Once I got my sleep back on track, all it took was figuring out a plan that had the right calorie deficit with enough protein, plus a whole lot of patience to get back to a healthy weight. Of course, it did take some work to figure out how to eat enough protein without completely blowing my calorie goal. The good news is, you don't have to put in the same amount of work that I did when first getting started, since I put together this video that shows you how to easily figure out which foods will finally get you to your fat loss goal. So go ahead and watch that next. It's right there. Just click right there.